Imagine a world where the maps are unfinished, where entire oceans are filled with dragons and sea monsters, and where the boundaries of human knowledge end at the edge of the horizon. In 1492, one man dared to sail beyond those edges, not out of curiosity or a desire for fame, but with a mission that could shift the balance of global power forever. His name was Christopher Columbus, and his voyage wasn't just a gamble. It was a bold, calculated attempt to outwit empires, bypass centuries-old monopolies, and rewrite the rules of trade, religion, and conquest. The true goal of Columbus's voyage wasn't to discover a new world. He didn't even know one existed. It was to reach the riches of Asia by sailing west, to break the stranglehold Islamic and Venetian powers held on the lucrative overland trade routes to the east. It was a daring shortcut through uncharted seas, a mission driven by greed, glory, and God, and the ripple effects would transform the planet forever. To understand the gravity of Columbus's journey, you have to picture the geopolitical chessboard of the late 15th century. Europe was hungry for gold, spices, silk, and status. For centuries, the Silk Road and other land routes had funneled the riches of Asia, pepper, cinnamon, jewels, exotic fabrics, into Europe. But these routes were slow, dangerous, and expensive, controlled by Muslim middlemen and powerful merchant republics like Venice. Every pound of spice passed through dozens of hands, each one hiking the price higher. The final buyer in Europe might pay 50 times what the item cost in India or China. This wasn't just a matter of taste or luxury. It was a question of power. Whoever controlled the trade routes controlled the wealth, and whoever controlled the wealth controlled the world. Portugal had already begun to chip away at this monopoly by sailing down the coast of Africa, building a sea route around the Cape of Good Hope to reach India. But Columbus had a radically different idea. What if you could sail west to reach the east? This idea wasn't entirely new. For centuries, scholars and sailors had speculated that the world was round. But while they believed you could, in theory, reach Asia by sailing west, the consensus was that the distance was far too vast. Most experts estimated it would take thousands of miles across open ocean with no land in sight. Columbus, however, had a secret weapon: bad math. He relied on ancient and incorrect estimates that drastically underestimated the circumference of the Earth. He believed Asia was only about 2,400 nautical miles west of Europe. In reality, it was more than 10,000. But this miscalculation, instead of dooming him, made the voyage seem possible. If Columbus had known the true distance, he might never have set sail, and neither would his patrons. Speaking of patrons, Columbus's dream needed funding, and this is where politics and religion come crashing into the story. After years of rejections from Portugal, England, and others, Columbus finally found an audience with the Spanish monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella. Spain had just completed the Reconquista, the centuries-long war to drive out the Muslim Moors from the Iberian Peninsula. In 1492, the very year Columbus set sail, Spain captured Granada, the last Muslim stronghold. The Catholic monarchs were now flush with nationalistic pride, newly unified under Christianity, and eager to prove their dominance on the world stage. Columbus offered them a chance to leapfrog Portugal, to find a faster, more direct route to the wealth of Asia, and to spread Christianity to unknown lands. It was an irresistible pitch: riches, religious conversion, and geopolitical prestige, all for the price of a few ships and a leap of faith. So, on August 3, 1492, Columbus set sail from Palos de la Frontera with 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. But this was no aimless expedition. He had maps, charts, and a clear objective: to reach the fabled lands of Cathay, China, Cipangu, Japan, and the Indies by crossing the Atlantic. His goal was to establish direct trade routes, forge alliances, and bring back gold, spices, and exotic treasures that would fill Spanish coffers and elevate his own status to that of a nobleman. Columbus carried letters of introduction from the Spanish monarchs to the Great Khan of China, assuming he would be welcomed as a diplomatic envoy. He imagined a world where Spanish ships sailed freely to the east, unbothered by Islamic armies or Venetian monopolies. A world where Spain would become the commercial and spiritual capital of a global empire. But as the weeks at sea turned into months, morale began to fray. The crew grew restless, food supplies dwindled, and fear took hold. Many believed they would sail off the edge of the world or be swallowed by monsters. Columbus held them together with promises of land just beyond the horizon. Then, on October 12, 1492, land was sighted. They had reached what is now known as the Bahamas. Columbus believed he had arrived near the Indies, possibly near Japan. He named the land San Salvador and claimed it for Spain, unaware that he had just stumbled upon an entirely unknown continent. This moment has been mythologized for centuries, but Columbus didn't discover America in the way many were taught. Indigenous peoples had lived in the Americas for thousands of years, and Norse explorers like Leif Erikson had reached parts of North America centuries earlier. What Columbus did was far more consequential. He opened the floodgates. His mistaken belief that he had found a westward route to Asia triggered a wave of exploration, colonization, conquest, and exploitation that would reshape the globe. Still convinced he was in the East, Columbus sailed on to Cuba and Hispaniola, searching for signs of gold and civilization. What he found instead were complex indigenous societies, unfamiliar languages, and people who had never seen metal, horses, or gunpowder. His reports back to Spain were filled with exaggerations and fantasy. He spoke of vast empires just over the next hill, of rivers glittering with gold, and of docile natives ripe for conversion and exploitation. The Spanish crown, seduced by these accounts, sent more expeditions. Columbus returned 3 more times, each voyage marked by increasing violence, disappointment, and desperation. His dream of establishing trade with Asia never came true. He never found the Great Khan, never discovered the spice-rich lands he sought. Instead, he initiated a centuries-long clash of civilizations that would lead to the rise of European colonial empires, the decimation of native populations, and the creation of a new world order. So what was the true goal of Columbus's voyage in 1492? On the surface, it was to find a westward sea route to Asia and break the monopoly on Eastern trade. But underneath that was a tangled web of motives: economic ambition, religious fervor, personal glory, and imperial expansion. Columbus wanted wealth, yes, but he also wanted nobility, legacy, and a place in history. He believed he was fulfilling a divine mission, spreading Christianity to the heathen world while bringing untold riches to his royal sponsors. But the greatest irony is this: the goal he set out to achieve, reaching Asia, was never fulfilled. And yet, in failing that mission, he succeeded in something even greater: unveiling a new hemisphere, igniting the age of exploration, and forever altering the course of human history. His voyage was not a scientific expedition, nor a voyage of peaceful discovery. It was a business deal cloaked in the robes of religious crusade. It was a gamble backed by political desperation and nationalistic pride. And it worked. The fallout of Columbus's mistake, the misidentification of the Americas as Asia, was so monumental that it led to the Columbian Exchange, a global movement of plants, animals, cultures, diseases, and ideas that would affect every corner of the world. Potatoes from Peru ended up in Ireland. Horses from Spain galloped across the plains of North America. Smallpox decimated native populations, and the world map was redrawn. Today, Columbus remains one of the most polarizing figures in history. Some hail him as a visionary who expanded the boundaries of the known world. Others condemn him as a bringer of genocide and conquest. But regardless of where you stand, one thing is undeniable: his voyage in 1492 was a turning point, an audacious mission born from a mix of ignorance, ambition, and sheer willpower. It wasn't about discovering a new world. It was about reaching an old one by a new path. And in that quest, Columbus found something no one expected: a bridge between two worlds that had never met, and a story that would echo through centuries of triumph, tragedy, and transformation.